Opt-outs have a lot of you concerned. Greg Rousseau at Miami. We've had Rashad Bateman at Minnesota opt out. We've had Micah Parsons at Penn State opt out of the season. And then we've had other guys like Jamar Chase at LSU announce, hey, I got every intention of playing this season. So we got a mixed bag. But a lot of people are afraid that a few superstars who are opting out, guys who look to be either locks or fairly virtual certainties to go in the first round of the NFL draft, whether they play or not this year, you're afraid that that's going to cause an avalanche. And even if we do have a season, a lot of the big boys are going to be out. Now, here's the reality. We will probably see a few more of these. I mean, we're seeing them right now. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, okay, well, now that we got those out of the way, that's done. No, the reality is we're probably going to see a few more. You're probably going to see a lot of things, quite frankly, this year, if and when college football happens, that you've never seen before or since. So just chalk it up to 2020. 10 years from now, when you're talking about the history of this country, college football no different, someone will just say, that was 2020, though. And you go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I got you now. Western Michigan won the national championship. 2020, though. I got you. Okay. So here's the reality. I did some digging on this because I saw a lot of you very concerned. A lot of you were expressing to me a lot of concern about, is this guy going to sit out? Is that guy going to sit out? This is independent of what's going on in the Pac-12. I'm talking specifically about this season. I'm talking about guys with health concerns, guys with pretty solidified draft status and draft stock. That's what I'm talking about, to be abundantly clear. The reality is most guys want to play. I know this comes as a very big shock to some people, including some folks who cover this sport, but I would suggest to you that a lot of college football players, most college football players, a vast majority of college football players love playing college football. They have aspirations to take it to the next level one day, but not every one of them is in a hurry to hit that exit door, contrary to what is sometimes popular belief. Now, this year, there is a new factor in that room that may hasten your steps towards that exit door. But few guys are first-round locks, very few. Now, there are going to be 32 eventual first-rounders taken. How many of them are locks the year before and the season before that upcoming draft happens? Very few. Micah Parsons is an exception to the rule. That guy is thought to be a top 10, top 15 lock. Greg Rousseau at Miami thought to be the same way. So this is not an all or none proposition. I'm going to suggest to you this is not going to become a trend that a lot of people are concerned about it becoming. But it's not an all or none thing. What I mean by that is this time next year, if we're back to normal and some guy for Georgia, some guy for Texas opts out, that doesn't mean that you come back and you wag your finger and say, oh, I told you it was going to become a trend. That's not a trend. 1 or 2 or even 5 does not a trend make. But long term, let's think about this and let's put it all on the table. I've talked to some very informed people, not just in the football world, but in worlds that would qualify them to speak on such things, shall we say. One example doesn't prove everything and it doesn't prove anything. But I want you to think about this. For every Micah Parsons, let's take this year as an example. Micah Parsons, not going to play a down, it looks like this year, probably still go top 10. Well, that's an exception. What happens if a guy opts to sit out this year and is projected right now in mock drafts to go mid-first round, and the guys that he's really competing against, if you think about it, for those precious few first-round spots at his position or in general, are playing this year, and they're putting a junior season or a senior season on tape, and you're not. What happens if one of these dudes falls late second round? I'll tell you what happens. What happens is, from now until eternity, when you sit down, if you are a guy who's eligible to leave and you're thinking about leaving and you sit down with your parents and your coaches and it's all put on the table, those scenarios are going to be put out there. You got one chance to make as much life-changing money as you can, and you got a senior season or a junior season coming up here. You still got work to do in the eyes of scouts, in the eyes of the advisory board. You still got work to do. Look what happened to player X. He left. He listened to the wrong folks. This happens anyway, without guys opting out earlier than normal. So those examples are going to be there. But that's not really what I'm so concerned about. There's another sort of baby elephant in the room that's going to grow as the season goes on and we get a lot closer to this becoming a reality. I keep talking about it, and some of you are still not following me. Those 3 letters, NIL, name, image, likeness. This thing that some of you are adamant about this, think that it's going to be this wrecking ball to the sport. Once you start allowing these kids to profit off their name, image, and likeness, probably next year, once you do that, the fabric of the sport is ripped and shredded into oblivion, and it will never return to any kind of normalcy. I think that's wrong. I've already expressed my opinion on that. I think it's going to be a net benefit. And I'm not just talking about for some new age fan who couldn't care less about the history and tradition of college football. I care about all those things. I'm one of them, and I'm telling you, I think this is going to be a net benefit even for you. If you're 84 years old and you're sitting there and you miss the days when this or that was the norm, I'm telling even you, I think you may look around and see that NIL, name, image, likeness, and opening up a new revenue stream, not sharing revenue, opening up a new revenue stream, is going to help more than it hurts the sport. How does that relate to all this? Well, I'll tell you. We're really at the crux of all this talking about how many guys are going to be opting out and not fulfilling their full college football eligibility. That's really what we're talking about. And by the very nature of leaving early, it's NFL draftable guys who leave early. And so the best players are the ones who have the opportunity to leave early, and you're worried about the top of the sport continuously being taken before their time. Think about this. And this is where I've spoken to some people, and this is the perspective out there that kind of is contrarian to what the general perspective is. Name, image, and likeness is coming up. The ability to profit off your name, image, and likeness is coming up. You don't have that right now. Right now, any given year, this one included, for different reasons, but think about a normal year. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of guys at major programs and secondary programs across the country who are on the fence about going to the NFL draft. A lot of those guys love college. A lot of those guys love college football. And if all things were even remotely equal, a lot of those guys would love to stay one more year, but at the same time, they understand there's a lot of risk when I come back, and there is a huge reward standing here right now, and all I got to do is declare, and I've got a lot of money, generational money. And so that's how the decision is made normally. Now, I want you to answer this. It's going to be rhetorical, because we're ultimately going to find out together. It's going to be rhetorical right now. Think about this. Dozens of kids on the fence, as they are every year, and you've got the pros and cons and the risk reward all weighed out. Now imagine that I'm putting anywhere from $60,000 to $700,000 extra dollars that they've had the ability to make in their college playing days in their back pocket. How many guys does that take off the fence and keep in college one more year? Not all of them are top 10 locks. A lot of guys are leaving college knowing, I'll go first 3 rounds, but we just need the money. My family needs the money. How many more guys are going to be taken off the fence? You're worried about the top 10 guys who may opt out. I'm telling you, for every one that does that, I see half a dozen or more who are going to fall on the college football side of that fence for one more year, because name, image, and likeness, the very thing that some of you think is going to ruin this sport, is going to keep more guys in the sport longer. So I consider that a win. And that ideology is why a lot of people are far less worried about this opt-out thing becoming a trend than some fans are. Just wanted to share my 2 cents and give you some alternate perspective there.